What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. It's full-time reaction to St Mirren 0, Celtic 1. I've got Darren with me to go over tonight's game. Darren, we had to wait 94 minutes for a shot on target, but I suppose you could say it was worth waiting for.
Well, at least Callum McGregor gave us something to talk about, to be honest. Look, need to address the elephant. Horrible game. Horrible. Even for MD watching that, because it's on Sky Main Event, so you're going to have people watching that who are not Celtic or St Mirren supporters. They're going to be watching that and thinking that's just a horrible game. And even us as Celtic fans are watching it and thinking that's probably Celtic's worst game of the season. And there's been a few, right? So to say that's the worst game is quite a damning statement, really. But as usual, when you're needing somebody to dig you out a hole, you look to Callum McGregor. He done it just before the international break in the semi-final with a brilliant left-footed strike outside the box. It seems to be the only types of goals that he does score now, is those thunderous strikes for outside the box. And I'm surprised that we won that game, because just watching the entirety of the match, I was just saying to myself, I don't know who's going to step up for us here. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see anything. The first half was as bad as it comes, really. It was just unwatchable at times. Like, just as a Celtic fan, you tune in to watch Celtic playing, and normally you're glued to the TV, you're sitting on the edge of your couch or your seat if you're at a game, whatever, you're glued to the game. But it felt like a chore at times just to even be vaguely interested in that match. I felt like there was a wee bit of and I say a wee bit, and I do mean a wee bit of an improvement in the second half at the beginning, maybe, and then slowly it just kind of petered back to the way it was at the first half. And I'm thinking, if MD's going to win this game, it's going to be St Mirren. They obviously had that Scales on goal, which got ruled out for offside. We didn't have a shot on target. I know the phrase champions win games when they don't particularly play well, and for most of this season we have not played like champions, and tonight we did not play like champions. But we got a result that keeps us breathing down the necks of hearts, and it was a very well needed result.
It was. I think that the 3 points are huge. There's already a load of comments coming in talking about the points being the main thing. A terrible performance, but we come away with a win, and that is the most important thing, I suppose, in a game like that. I think that, as you say, the first half was so poor. I think St Mirren hit the post, did they?
Yep.
They had another one flashed across the face of goal, but I mean, aside for that, we didn't offer anything going forward. And I know that we've got a few injuries, but they tend to be in defensive positions. I think Iheanacho's the only sort of attacker that we're missing through injury, and you can see in the front three tonight the chopping and changing that's happening. Dyson starts on the right-hand side. Johnny Kenny's through the middle. Kenny comes off at half-time. Luke McCowan comes on to go to right wing. Dyson goes through the middle. Then Tenekte comes off in the second half, and Yang comes on the left-hand side. I think the depth in that area of the pitch is something that we've bemoaned constantly this season, and I think again tonight you can see that, despite the fact we are only missing Iheanacho, we're just not creating anything at all. And one of the things with Martin O'Neill since he's come in interim charge is that we've got the ball forward a bit quicker. We've been a wee bit more direct. We've been having lots of shots at goal. There was really none of that today, and I think we end up 2 shots on target. I think the stats will say, I can only assume the first shot on target must have been the looping header from the free kick about a minute before the goal, which was, I mean, it's barely even a shot on target. He's just helmet on, whoever it is that gets his head to it. So, it was a terrible performance. We did get away with it, and I think the goal was worthy of winning any game. Again, Callum McGregor steps up when we need him. He's done that time and time again, and I mean, it was the last kick. It was literally the last kick of the game. I think the clock had just ticked over 94 minutes. I think there was 4 minutes added on, and and we needed that. We've got other big games coming up, Darren. As you say, it's about breathing down the neck of Hearts. They go to Pittodrie tomorrow, and you're right in saying that it doesn't feel like the usual sort of Celtic team this season. That's you would usually say the hallmark of champions for winning a game like that. But I think it's important, given the context of where we are in the table, that for now, while we've got Martin O'Neill in interim charge and we don't really know what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 weeks, let alone the next 2 or 3 months, that we just keep putting points on the board, I suppose.
Aye, and I think the club, not off the pitch especially, it's just a circus at the minute. And you look at the AGM yesterday and all the news that sort of attracts. And I was saying to myself, just as 90 minutes was coming up, when I was expecting us to be a draw, and I was expecting people to go online and say, like some people making excuses to say, they lost that game because they were distracted by what happened yesterday and what's been going on. And I'm saying to myself, no, these guys are professional football players. They play for Celtic. They're being paid a lot of money. They need to go out there and do their job. But at the same time, it can be hard as well, because also you've got the stuff that happened yesterday. We still don't have a manager, and as you're saying, when we went into that international break there, you heard it from Martin O'Neill himself. He did not expect to still be the manager. You get injuries now that are happening as well. Like Cameron Carter-Vickers is out for the season. Johnston, Jota. I'm missing so many more. So you're just kind of thinking to yourself, it's going to be a struggle every single game now. And then obviously teams like St Mirren, we played them on the first day of the season, where we were in a stronger position. I would say we were in a stronger position on the first day of the season than we are now. Mm-hmm. And even then, we still just managed to score a very similar to what we done the day, a last-minute winner for Luke McCowan. So I think we've always kind of struggled against St Mirren because they're a very physical team. And you've seen that for the first kind of 10 minutes. They just didn't let us breathe. They were winning 50-50s. And obviously we talked about the defensive injuries. It was good to see Kieran Tierney obviously play. I know he's just had a brilliant week for Scotland, but he had to come off, and I can't even remember. I think
Dane Murray came on.
Aye, that was strange
and
for me.
Scales went to left back, didn't he?
Scales went to left back, but he also took Ralston off and put Engels to right back. And in that moment, I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? This is just this all strategy has just gone out the window. We are just absolutely winging it here, and then we bring on Colby Donovan with 10 minutes left. It just felt very, very spontaneous and absolutely no strategy involved whatsoever. Obviously, it worked out in the end, but again, just down to a moment of magic for Callum McGregor. We've got no options, or just no quality up front. Really, and Tanecki was strange because in the first half, Tanecki was getting the ball. And he had a wee half chance, I think, where he cut inside and he had it, and it just went over the bar, and it was really close. But it just frustrated me so much. It was just trying to take players on, and it was just done a whole lot of nothing. You're thinking he's a most creative player, do something. He was trying, and absolutely nothing was coming off. And then I think putting Maida in the middle was helpful because he got in behind a few times. I think there was one chance where he was waiting for the centre half to come across him, but he just almost forgot to take the ball. Yeah. It's just little bits of quality moments like that you're just missing for Dyson Maida, and you feel like Dyson Maida last season would have ate that up, but we've just not got the same Dyson Maida this season. And it's just all those wee things that add together that are going to make all these sort of games like this a struggle. So it's just a bit digging in, and really I hate the phrase of coming away with 3 points because it makes you feel like the performance wasn't there. The most important thing is winning. You want to win and you want to play well, but at this moment in time, Celtic realistically aren't going to play well most games.
Aye, it looks like every game could be a struggle for us just now. That's the sort of theme this season. That's the way the team are playing. We're so used to talking about the performance level being relatively high and then the results follow from that. But we're in a place just now where we just need to find a way to get results regardless. And almost even if we're playing as badly as we did today, we're just need to find a way to grind it out. You mentioned Tanecki there, Darren. I think he has you could say on one hand impressed since he's come in. You could say on the other hand flattered to deceive. I think he always looks bright. He always looks positive. He's constantly involved. He gets lots of touches in the game. Even today, we're talking about how little we created in the game, but he did have probably a handful or more opportunities out wide, squaring up the fullback. And I think people are maybe starting to just get a bit sort of disillusioned with the output, because I think he scored 2 goals so far. He's played 14 games now. There's no assists in there. It's just that end product that despite the nice touches and despite him being bright and constantly being involved, there doesn't seem to be anything at the end of it consistently enough.
No, and I can understand the frustration, and I'm frustrated myself, because I think when we all saw him make his debut, and I think the game against, was it Partick Thistle as well, when his second game, and a couple of games after that, you've seen there, like, we had a real player on my hands. That kind of player was exactly what we're missing. And it just kind of seems like it's not like he's falling off a cliff, but game by game, you just sort of start to see it dip more and more. And I even heard somebody a couple of weeks ago like saying he's just another Lewis Palmer. I wouldn't go as far as that. I still think there's a quality player in Taneke, but you're right, the output in terms of statistics, like goals and assists, needs to improve. But I also sympathise with him a wee bit, because if picture the scenario, Taneki's up front there with a prime Kyogo, you'd probably see a lot more of assists coming his way. I just think Celtic aren't scoring many goals at all in recent weeks, and you can't really pin that down to him. But you would say if Celtic were scoring loads of goals every week, you would bet your money that he would be involved in them somewhere or another in terms of goals and assists. So I think he does have to improve, obviously, like in terms of being more consistent with his output, but also sympathise with him, because Celtic up front as a whole was just lacking some real quality. Not to pick on Johnny Kenny, but there was a reason that he took off at half time. I think it was just
very poor, wasn't he?
He was completely invisible. I mean, the shot that he had, where I think he ran onto a pass from Rio Hatate, where he tried to swing his right foot at it.
That's probably the best opening of the first half.
And he's touched it with his left boot, and then he's just skied it. That kind of sums up his day. So there's nothing really that we can do about that at the moment. Ian Atcho, from what I'm led to believe, is back soon. But again, you're now talking about he's been out for a number of weeks, so how long is he going to take to get match fit again? And he probably wasn't match fit before he even got injured. So we need to get used to seeing Johnny Kenny start pretty much every single game up until January. So it's not great just now, and we can't really pin it on one individual. It's a failure from the recruiting department, unfortunately, and we don't want to get in that road, because we've spoken about it numerous times, but we just don't have the quality all round.
Aye, absolutely. I want to bring in this comment. Need to play a heavily rotated team against Feyenoord, as next Sunday is a big match if Hearts drop points tomorrow. I think we obviously go to Hibs next weekend, Darren, which is a big one, and then we've got Hearts at home the following week with a game against Dundee at home, sandwiched in between that as well. So there's a lot of big domestic games coming up. Where do you sit on that in terms of the situation we're in the Europa League, which doesn't look great? Do you think, talk about heavily rotating, I don't know how much we can heavily rotate, because we've talked about the injuries we've got, the lack of depth we've got anyway. We end up in a situation tonight, as you rightly say, where Engels is playing at right back. Donovan comes on. I was actually surprised he was involved, because I thought he picked up a slight injury on under 21 duty during the week as well. So maybe that's why he didn't come on straight away to go to right back when there was a lot of reshuffling happening. But I understand that the approach that, listen, let's move the Europa League down in terms of priority and invest players, but we don't really have a lot of rotation to do we?
No, and I don't really know where I sit with this one with Europe. Do I completely want to abandon it and just say I don't care what the score is for every single game? Absolutely not.
Love that one. The board will love that one. Abandon Europe.
Maybe. But no, you want to do well in every competition you're in. Obviously, we are in absolutely no shape, on, off, anywhere as a club from top to bottom to compete in Europe. but you still want to give it a try. You don't say, "Oh, we're not good enough, so let's just chuck it and focus on domestic as well." Because if you want to shift the focus to domestic, well, technically we're not good enough for that either, because we're still second behind Hearts. And in terms of rotation, I don't know. I think the midfield is one luxury where we do have the ability to rotate, because we've obviously, you think of the three that started tonight: Engels, Hatate, McGregor. You've got Nygren there, who, some fans don't like him, and I understand why. But you've got Nygren, McCowan, and others who can come in there and play. So that area of the pitch is not bad. Up front, our hands are absolutely tied. We need to play those three. We've obviously got Forrest and Yang, and Iheanacho when he comes back. So that starting three plus those three I just mentioned are really the only options. Defence as well, it's just as bad. The only real dilemma is the games that you do want to prioritise. Do you start Ralston or Donovan? And for me, I think, I can't admit, we did a game a few weeks before the international break, and I really said that I don't understand why Donovan isn't getting played ahead of Anthony Ralston. I just look at Anthony Ralston tonight. I've looked at him for a couple of seasons actually, and I just don't see it for him anymore. Like, I know he's a guy in his mid-20s. I think he's 26, 27 now, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but this is a guy who is never going to be good enough to be a starting right back for Celtic. Of course, you need someone who is going to be a backup and is happy being a backup. And Anthony Ralston's been that for his entire Celtic career. But there comes a point where you say, is he good enough to... When you've got Donovan who's progressing this season, you don't need three right-backs in the team. So for me, I would just say, I give Donovan the nod ahead of Anthony Ralston. I mean, I watched them tonight, and I heard the commentary. I think it was James McFadden, and he said that Chris Sutton at half-time said he was really struggling as well. And I was just watching him during the game, and every time he got the ball, we just took a touch in and passed it back to Austin Trusty. And I just don't want to see that for a right back. I want to see a right back who's driving down the wing. That's what you're so used to seeing from Celtic players. Anthony, Alistair Johnston, and before that, Josip Juranovic. And you can go further back years and years from right backs who were just brilliant at bombing up and down the wing. And Anthony Ralston just isn't that type of player. I know it seems like I'm picking on Anthony Ralston, but I'm not. I just want to see Donovan get the try, because he's a kid who's obviously progressing. So,
I think what you're right in saying that he's been a backup for a long time, and if he's maybe coming in very few games through a season here and there, you can sort of cope with that. But when Alistair Johnston's out for such a long term, like he has been this season, he's basically missed 3 months. He came back. He's now out for another at least 3 to 4 months, so he's missing the majority of the season. So that means that with him out for that period of time, Ralston becomes the first choice, because he's sort of next in line. And I thought Donovan did well in his first few appearances. I think setting up alongside Dane Murray at Tynecastle was a really tough afternoon for him, and that was when he sort of dropped out of the team. And it's difficult with a young player to throw him in a difficult situation. But I mean, I agree with you. I think he does give us more. I think he's a bit more mobile. I think he can offer you more going forward. He's obviously got loads to learn in the game, being at such a young age, defensively as well. But I wouldn't mind seeing him as long as his fitness can hold up, because I say there was that talk of injury during the week. But we find ourselves in a difficult situation. There's already a lot of comments in the chat about Europe. Lauren saying couldn't be less bothered about Europe this season. Our issues are so big domestically. And that's right, I understand that. But to your point as well, Darren, I get what you're saying. Like, you don't just want to just put your hands up in a competition and turn up and get beat every game. There's going to be fans spending fortunes, as always, to follow the team across Europe. It is also about pride, and there's also another comment here saying that we need 6 points from 4 games. And that on its own doesn't look too bad, but those games are away to Feyenoord, at home to Roma. I think it's away to Bologna as well. And then I forget who's the last home game against. It escapes me right now. But it's a difficult situation.
Was it?
You checked, that's it. We find ourselves in a difficult situation in Europe, and I also feel like I just don't think we've got it in us. I don't think we should be putting the B team out to play in Europe, but I think if we put the strongest team out we possibly can, we've probably not got 6 points in these 4 games to find. Anything else on tonight before we round off? Let us know in the chat. Darren, we've gone for 20 minutes here, and I think before Callum McGregor stuck that in the top corner, we'd only have been here for 5 minutes because there wasn't a hell of a lot to talk about. Liam Scales obviously scored the own goal, as you mentioned earlier. I think that it was the right decision because I think, is it McMenamin or whoever the St Mirren player is, I think he has an offside position. He does go towards the ball. I think we were lucky that he did though, because if he doesn't go towards the ball, I think that the decision could have went another way. And there's a few times tonight defensively we just looked really untidy at times when St Mirren were putting the ball in the box.
Aye, and one of the chances for St Mirren that you spoke about earlier was the one quite early in the game where they had the low driven cross in, and I think you see the highlights and it's a strange one for Trusty because you see him sort of pull out of the block, and it just, I think Scales does it as well. Both of them pull out, and the St Mirren player should score. I think the guy that does get the nick on the ball, he's stretching, and if he misses the ball completely, his teammate behind him's got a tap in, and that's kind of one of those ones where I'm thinking, oh, come on, Celtic, this is just like nerve-wracking defensively. Like either the goalkeeper has to come out and command his box, or one of us has to take responsibility and clear that. We know that St Mirren are a physical side, and am I right in saying that they've always played two up front against us? Like it is a strange one. I know, like Trusty and Scales are never shy for a physical battle, but it was quite lucky that we didn't concede any tonight. Obviously, we spoke about them hit the post as well when the offside goal. I agree with you. I think it was offside. My only surprise to it was that they didn't send the referee to the monitor, because when it's interference for an offside player, I think that's a subjective. So they usually send the ref over to that. So, I was surprised. Obviously, I was thrilled about it, but I was surprised we got away with that. So, quite a bit of luck. Well, more than a bit of luck. I think a lot of luck tonight, and we can't rely on it for a season because luck's not a strategy. No,
absolutely not. Lauren is asking thoughts on the sack the board chance and whether they're hurting the team or not. I think it's a difficult one. I don't think the situation is helping anybody. I don't think that anybody's going to come out of it positively. I think I don't think you can overstate. I don't think it's easy to overstate the impact that it might be having on the team. I think they should be strong enough to be focusing on their job on the pitch. There's been a couple of protests before in recent years I can think of where it hasn't really affected the team on the pitch. I referenced that one, the last one up at Dens Park, where there was tennis balls thrown on the pitch when the fans were protesting.
4-0 that game, wasn't it?
4-2, I think it was. It didn't really seem to have impact the players at all. So I think there is times where it doesn't have any influence, and I think they should be in a position where it shouldn't have too much impact, but I accept that it might sort of subconsciously be affecting them negatively. But I think the anger has been amplified multiple times by the way the board have handled the protests and the way the board have handled even yesterday. I think the statement has really got people's backs up again. And I think if yesterday was approached in a different manner, what I've been thinking about over the last 24 hours or so since yesterday's video is, see if Ross Desmond didn't come in with a premeditated statement that he was going to read from, and he actually spoke normally, just spoke to the people who were there and said, look, I know everybody's unhappy. We're here today to answer your questions. We're going to get to that. We're going to be as open as we can. We all want Celtic to do it, but to go to a premeditated statement that had numerous attacks on the supporters in it is just a PR disaster. It's another PR disaster from Celtic, and that is making the fans' frustration and the fans' anger worse. And that means the chants are not going to go away. Now, there's lots of questions about what's going to happen here and what the outcome is going to be, and if change is even possible, and what happens even if we could get it. But I think there's no getting away from the fact that these PR errors from the club are making things worse.
After yesterday and seeing the videos, I finally realised that this isn't going to go away unless there's change. I don't think there's anything that the board can do now, whether their intentions are right or wrong. I don't think there's anything they can do to repair the relationship with the fans. I just don't. And as I said, I think in the beginning of this video, I used the word circus, and I'll stick by that. I think anytime, like, it's dominating everything now. I think it's dominating Scottish football, and now it's making its way onto like mainstream news platforms. I watched Sky Sports News yesterday, and they were covering this for long periods of time, and it's just not going to go. If anything, it's just going to get bigger. And when you talk about the statement there that just was accusing fans of bullying, etc., and just to rile them up, I've seen little conspiracies online to say that they've done that on purpose to get them riled up to end the AGM early so that they didn't have to face the questions for the shareholders. Whether MD agrees with that or not, it's completely up to them to decide. I don't know, but I just don't understand what they expected to come for that. Reading the statements, obviously you had how many people was there? 409 people were there. I think that was
900 over the two rooms. 900, I think.
900, right? Okay, see, that's a lot of people, and obviously I think you had the shareholders were sitting at the front, and obviously those people are there because they genuinely have like loads of questions to get asked. But you obviously have certain people who are just there to listen and pay attention to what's going on, etc. And when you come out with something like that, and you've got Peter Lawwell then reacting to that and telling people to behave like he's the school head teacher, trying to grill the students for making too much noise, like what do you expect? These aren't children you're talking to. These are supporters who aren't rich and aren't shareholders. These are supporters who pay their hard-earned money for season tickets, and they go to Celtic when it's a Wednesday night and it's freezing, and you're just treating them like absolute buffoons. What do you expect? Like, they're making the road for their own backs here with reactions like this, and if they keep coming out with these statements where they're doubling down and defending them, I just wish for 1 second, and I know they are doing it slightly where they're saying, oh, like, we haven't been perfect, and the reference communication and stuff, like, you've been far from perfect. There's been so many failings, from just recruitment to just the list is insane for how many failings that they have made, and they're just saying, oh, we could maybe communicate better, but we've got this club strategy that we stick to, and we're not going to change just because a couple of anti-establishment supporters will just try and vilify us for their own narrative. It's just wrong, and they need to learn. In fact, they don't need to learn, they need to go, because it's the only way this whole situation is going to end, because the relationship is untenable, and the fans aren't going to leave. The fans aren't going to start supporting Celtic. These people need to go.
I think I think you're spot on in everything you've said there. I think yesterday when people talk about not getting an opportunity to ask the board questions, I said this yesterday, they've been answering questions at AGMs for years, and nothing ever changes off the back yet. They just answer questions in a face-to-face meeting with people from the collective, and nothing really comes of it. It's the same sort of empty answers that are always given to these questions. So I don't think the value in the questions was lost yesterday, but I think if the board wanted to answer questions yesterday, they could have answered them, because there was a proposal to move to the questions immediately at the start of the AGM, but it was insisted that the video had to be watched, and then everybody had to take their turn at speaking, Ross Desmond particularly. So I think even if everybody had walked in and sat down and been in perfect silence, and there was absolutely zero noise and zero booing and no red cards, Ross Desmond would still have sat down and read out that statement. And I think that tells you everything you need to know. And I think the thing that people have been saying for a long time is that the board have a contempt towards the supporters. And I don't see how you can argue that with the statements that the club have released over the last few months. It's insulting to people's intelligence on multiple occasions. The one about the transfer business, where they were trying to hide behind the UEFA regulations. From Desmond's statement blaming absolutely everything at the club on Brendan Rodgers, to that statement from Ross Desmond attacking the supporters yesterday. You can only come away thinking that they hold the supporters in contempt. But anyway, we'll be here all night, Darren. We've done 30 minutes now. We did get the points tonight. It was a brilliant strike from Callum McGregor that sealed the 3 points late on. A much needed 3 points. Like the video, let us know what you think of the game in the comments, and we will see you during the week for the build up to that game against Feyenoord. Thank you.